The night sky over the remote stretch of railway in eastern Ukraine was unusually silent, a silence so complete it felt unnatural in a region that had become synonymous with thunderous artillery, distant gunfire, and the constant hum of conflict. But on this particular night, the wind barely stirred. Even the animals had retreated deep into the forests, as if some unspoken instinct warned them that something was coming. Dozens of kilometers away, in a dimly lit underground control room, a team of Ukrainian drone operators leaned in over their monitors. Every screen glowed with grainy grayscale images, all fed by the high-altitude optical systems of unmanned aerial vehicles drifting silently above Russian-controlled territory. These drones weren't the small commercial quadcopters that people had become familiar with. They were purpose-built, long-range reconnaissance and strike UAV modified for precision missions. 27-year-old operator Leonid wiped sweat from his brow despite the cold subterranean air. His fingers hovered above the control sticks. Target train confirmed, he whispered, although everyone in the room already knew. The freight convoy they had been tracking for nearly 2 hours had just crossed into the kill zone, its long silhouette sliding across the countryside like some steel serpent. The convoy wasn't ordinary. Intelligence reports indicated it was transporting a mixture of equipment, some standard, some shrouded in secrecy. Satellite images suggested armored vehicles concealed beneath tarps, crates of artillery shells, and according to intercepted radio chatter, possibly a new type of electronic warfare module recently shipped from a manufacturing plant hundreds of kilometers inside Russia. If true, that cargo alone could worsen communication interference already plaguing Ukrainian units on the front. Drone 3 in position, another operator, Bogdan, announced. His calm voice contrasted with the tension in the room. Altitude steady at 2,000, wind stable, train speed 48 kilometers per hour. Leonid adjusted his headset, prepare for synchronized approach. The team had rehearsed this operation for days, simulating everything from weather unpredictability to potential electronic jamming. Even the possibility that the train might be guarded by hidden mobile air defense units. But now, after all the planning, only execution mattered. On the screen before them, the train's engine came into focus, a diesel locomotive painted in drab colors, its windows dark. A faint haze of exhaust trailed behind it, drifting lazily in the night. Behind the engine stretched dozens of freight cars, some old and rusted, others freshly repainted. The team zoomed in. One flatbed wagon carried an armored vehicle wrapped in camouflage netting. Another car appeared to be sealed with heavy locks and reinforced steel plates, not standard for transporting mere ammunition. Leonid exhaled slowly, drones 1, 2, and 3 switching to attack mode. Around him, the processors hummed louder. Operators' fingers danced across keyboards as commands were executed. Small indicators on the screens changed from blue to red. Arming confirmed. Far above the earth, the drones didn't make any sudden movements. They simply drifted like silent hunters, aligning themselves perfectly, engines whispering so quietly that even someone standing directly beneath them wouldn't hear them over the rumble of the train. Then a faint static crackled through the comms, just for half a second, enough to make Leonid's heart jump. Electronic interference, he asked. Bogdan checked his panels. Short burst. Not from us. Might be from that cargo. Leonid frowned. If the train truly carried a new EW system, this strike was even more crucial. They had the window, they had the positioning, there would be no better chance. Continue, all drones, advance. The screen shifted as Drone 1 descended slightly, framing the center of the convoy. Drone 2 moved toward the locomotive, while Drone 3 targeted the rear half, particularly the mysterious reinforced carriage. The operator's breaths synchronized unconsciously as they counted down. 5 seconds to drop window. Leonid's fingertips tightened around the controls. 4. Somewhere in the distance, the train's horn echoed, long and mournful, unaware of the eyes watching from above. 3. The earth below was pitch black except for the faint moonlit gleam of steel rails. 2. Leonid steadied his aim. 1. Execute. 3 small objects detached from the drones. Precision glide munitions designed for silent delivery. They sliced through the night air, invisible to anyone on the ground. The first impact struck the locomotive. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a concussive wave that shattered windows half a kilometer away. The engine jerked violently, metal twisting as the explosion ripped through its frame. The front of the train lifted briefly before slamming back onto the rails, sparks bursting beneath it. Before the echo of the first blast faded, the second strike hit the armored vehicle in the middle of the convoy. The explosion was deeper, heavier, its shockwave rolling across the open fields like a physical force. The flatbed was thrown sideways. The vehicle atop it tossed like a toy as fire swallowed its camouflage netting. The third strike was the one everyone held their breath for. It hit the reinforced carriage. At first, nothing obvious happened, no explosion, no debris, just a bright flash and a cloud of dust. Then, a heartbeat later, the entire train car erupted from within, as if something inside detonated after being triggered by the impact. The blast was so powerful it sent twisted metal spiraling hundreds of meters into the air. A mushroom of orange fire roared skyward, illuminating the battlefield like daytime. Direct hit. Someone shouted. But the room didn't celebrate, not yet. In the drone feeds, flames spread rapidly from car to car. Some wagons remained intact, others buckled and melted. Fuel pooled across the dirt embankment, igniting into rivers of fire. Then something unexpected happened. A second explosion burst from the remains of the reinforced car. Much larger, much brighter, it ripped the entire rear half of the convoy apart. Instantly, theories flooded the operators' minds. Was it ammunition? Fuel? Or something even more dangerous? Alarms suddenly blared from Bogdan's station. Incoming EM interference. The screens flickered. For a moment, all 3 drone feeds cut to static. Leonid swore under his breath, frantically adjusting the signal amplifiers. Then, just as suddenly, the feeds returned, but what they showed made the room fall silent. Crawling out of the burning wreckage were shapes, dozens of soldiers who had been riding in the troop transport cars. Some were running, others were crawling on hands and knees through the smoke. A few carried rifles, many were disoriented, blinded, terrified. Flames reflected off shattered helmets and torn uniforms. Leonid swallowed. They hadn't expected so many personnel on board. Orders, Bogdan asked quietly. Command protocol for such missions was clear. Drones were to eliminate equipment, not pursue retreating personnel unless they posed significant immediate threat. The operators watched the soldiers scatter across the fields, some heading toward the tree line, others dropping to the ground, too injured to move. Leonid steadied himself, hold fire, assess secondary hazards. The drones circled the flaming wreck, scanning for surviving equipment. Despite the chaos, their optical sensors picked up something unusual near the center of the blast site. An object half, buried under twisted metal, glowing faintly through the smoke. The camera zoomed in. It was a rectangular case, black, reinforced, and still intact despite the catastrophic explosion around it. "What is that?" Bogdan whispered. "Get thermal." Leonid ordered. The camera switched modes. The case burned with a faint but steady heat signature, too steady for debris. It looked powered. "Is that the EW module?" someone asked. Before Leonid could answer, the train wreckage emitted another burst of interference. The monitors glitched again, not enough to sever signal this time, but enough to confirm the theory. That case survived the blast. Leonid leaned closer. "We need to neutralize it. Drone 2 has 1 munition remaining," Bogdan informed. "Target the case." Drone 2 dipped lower. But as it lined up its attack vector, the operators noticed movement. A Russian soldier, helmet cracked, uniform scorched, dragged himself toward the glowing case. He struggled, stumbling, nearly collapsing, but he kept crawling. He reached the case, desperately pulling at its handles. He wasn't trying to use it, he was trying to save it. "Do we proceed?" Bogdan asked. Leonid hesitated. The protocol was to destroy technological assets, even if protected by enemy personnel. But watching the soldier cling to the case, the reality of war felt painfully human. "Proceed," Leonid said quietly. Drone 2 released its final munition. The strike was clean, a flash, a shockwave. When the smoke cleared, both the soldier and the case were gone. One by one, the fires across the convoy began dying down. The wind shifted, blowing the smoke toward the distant tree line. The operators monitored everything for another 20 minutes, ensuring no secondary threats remained. Finally, command gave the order to return the drones to base. As the UAV climbed into the upper atmosphere, Leonid leaned back in his chair, exhausted. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear. He had felt fear before. This was something else, something he couldn't fully explain. Bogdan approached him. "You okay?" Leonid nodded, just thinking. About the soldier, Leonid didn't respond at first. His eyes stayed fixed on the dimming screens, replaying the moment the man crawled toward the case. The determination, the desperation, it wasn't loyalty to a machine. It was something more basic, the instinct to protect what you believe matters. He was doing his job. Leonid finally said, "Just like we were." Bogdan nodded slowly. War is never clean. The room gradually emptied as the operation was logged and archived. Only Leonid remained, staring at the digital map of the region. The train strike had been a tactical success. The cargo destroyed, the supply route disrupted, the electronic warfare equipment neutralized. Strategically, it would slow Russian operations along the sector for weeks, maybe longer, but something about the night lingered in his mind. Hours later, outside the bunker, dawn touched the horizon with a dull orange glow. The cold morning air carried the scent of damp earth. Leonid stepped outside, breathing in the stillness. Birds began to chirp cautiously from the treetops. "Long night?" A voice asked behind him. It was Valeria, one of the analysts who helped coordinate the mission. She handed him a cup of coffee. Black, strong, bitter, the longest, Leonid admitted. She sipped her coffee. "You did what needed to be done. That train would have changed the balance on the front lines." "I know." Leonid looked toward the horizon. "Still doesn't make some parts easier. That's because you're human," she replied. "Let's hope we all stay that way." Leonid cracked a faint smile. Later that afternoon, Command issued a formal statement summarizing the mission's outcome. It didn't mention the soldier trying to save the case. It didn't describe the psychological weight felt in the control room. It simply confirmed that a high-value logistics transport had been successfully intercepted, with significant operational impact. But thousands of kilometers away, as footage of the burning train spread across social media, millions of viewers speculated wildly. Some claimed the explosion was caused by sabotage. Others insisted the Russians had been transporting something experimental. A few conspiracy theorists argued that the second massive blast was evidence of a secret weapon. Nobody knew the full story. Only the operators did. As night fell once again, Leonid returned to the control room and prepared for the next mission briefing. Another convoy, another target, another moment requiring calm hands and sharp focus. War allowed no pause. Yet, before the new operation began, Leonid closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't see the explosions or the burning train. He saw the soldier, crawling, reaching, holding on to something he believed mattered, and Leonid realized that in war there are no clean victories, only choices made in the shadows, each one carrying the weight of humanity buried beneath layers of duty. The next briefing began. The team gathered, screens lit up, coordinates flickered, the drone engines hummed to life far away. And once again, the silent machines rose into the air, gliding into the night where their operators' decisions would shape the unseen battles of a conflict that had already scarred the land, the people, and the future. But this time, as Leonid placed his hands on the controls, he carried with him a quiet vow to fight hard, to protect his country, but never to lose the part of himself that still recognized the humanity on the other side, no matter how deep the war dragged them all. Because in the end, even in the darkest theaters of conflict, the choices made by those behind the screens determine not just the outcome of battles, but the kind of world that will remain when the smoke finally clears.